Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all my blessed beloveds out there in Living and Thriving Land. You're watching Living and Thriving with Rusty, and I'm Rusty. And as you can see, it is a particularly sunny day out. It's absolutely beautiful here on the Gulf Coast of Florida. And it's kind of intriguing to watch fall in Florida because it doesn't really turn into fall. We literally are at 85 degrees right now. Whereas all my friends in New England are snuggling up with sweaters and bonfires and hot cocoa and hot cider, we're still here sipping down our cold water. Exciting, exciting. I have a huge wasp nest outside my bedroom window and I'm allergic to wasps, so I have to figure out how I'm going to actually rid my space of these guys without getting stung. So if you see that I'm on the front page of the USA Today or Wink News because I'm 4,000 pounds of anaphylactic shock, you'll know why. You will be witness. I'm super excited. I'm actually traveling around the world today. I have several interviews back to back all over the world. Some are in Scotland, some are in Spain, and a few are in England. So here we go. Today's guest is David Holliworks, and you are calling me from where? I can't remember.
Calling from Washington, D.C., that area.
Washington, D.C.
Yep.
Wicked cool. You know what I love about Washington, D.C.?
It would be hard to guess.
Is that when you guys get a snowstorm, it's actually quite fascinating because it's the only time that you can actually drive through DC without potentially getting killed.
Yeah, and if it snows more than 2 inches, everything pretty much shuts down. I grew up in the Midwest, and it's a bit less hardy here.
I find it fascinating. I grew up in Southern Florida.
Okay.
I went to college in Vermont. I built a house in Maine. So I spent half my life here in Florida and half my life in New England. And I feel like I have a good understanding of ice, snow, and oh my God.
Well, you have two temperatures, shake and bake.
Shake and bake, exactly right. Yeah, so I'm a red-nosed pit bull, I guess. But DC has always fascinated me because of that one, if there's a little tiny bit of snow, everybody, it's like it's a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, and with everything going to a work from home status, it'll be interesting to see how this winter works out because you can't really cancel school if you're already at school.
Touche. Yeah. Touche. Unless we start cloning, but that's on the next Geraldo.
That would, I don't know if I'd want to be cloned or not. I think one of me is enough.
I'm too ornery. I'd like to have a few, it'd be like the little minions.
Well, to do your bidding, that would be awesome.
So true. So David, you are one of the fortunate few that have passed my vetting. I normally don't have sales or marketing or any of that on the show, but there's a specific reason why I chose you. So we're going to start out like I do with every other guest.
Sure.
Who are you? What do you do? And what makes the ooey gooey in you?
That's a good question. I'm David Holliworks. I am a speaker and author in the Washington, D.C. area. And the ooey gooey, I don't think I should be talking about the motorcycle accident because that would be a little bit too close to the truth. But I went through an experience in 2004 through a few years after that helped me learn how to harness some of the, what I would think to be normally negative qualities into very positive qualities, mainly anger and stubbornness, which when I was growing up were thought to be bad things. I found that they were very useful things if you channel them in the right direction.
That's an appropriate conversation for the time that we're living in.
Sure.
So what I wonder with humanity, because it always, I just find humans so intriguing because in reality, as I say on every show, we're a bag of water. We're a walking dichotomy surfing on this huge asteroid in the middle of the universe, which is infinite, without a steering wheel. yet we fight so hard to have some form of control. And one of the things that really sparked my interest this morning in my morning musings was, and I know you can help me understand this better prospectively. We fight so hard not to have difference. We're so afraid of difference. Yet we want so much to be different. We want to have those kudos and, hey, you're successful. You're the most successful person in the world. High five, clap on the back. And yet we fear being different. So in that, that causes a lot of anger, and it causes a lot of strange emotional confusion. What are your thoughts about that? Because I think we're really seeing a huge breakthrough in some areas.
I think everybody does want to belong to a tribe somewhere. And you see that start to show up in elementary school and junior high, where cliques start to form and people start to generate their little groups that they affiliate with. And I think everybody's been at the place where they've been included in a group or they've been excluded in a group, from a group. And I think the challenge is, one is recognizing who your tribe is and being okay with that. Sometimes it's hard to find who thinks in a similar way that you do or in a compatible way that you do. And not getting upset just because somebody thinks differently than you do. I think we're seeing a lot of that today. And one thing I have to constantly remind myself is, you gotta let it go. It's really hard to convince somebody of something that they don't believe in. Even if they're wrong, you have to be comfortable with letting them be wrong or letting yourself be wrong, because with me, it happens all the time. So that's one thing. The other part of that is something I was telling my daughter the other day, is recognizing that you're unique. There's nobody on this planet exactly like you, but you're not special. You know, you have the same struggles and the same obstacles that everybody else has. So you can revel in being unique, but realize you're not alone, that everybody goes through those same feelings, even if they don't manifest themselves in the ways that yours do.
What was your epiphany, your aha moment of changing the way you feel about things and the way you perceive things, and the times when you have to really bite your tongue and say, I'm not going to say anything?
That is an ongoing struggle.
Truth.
I don't think that's a journey that you never get to the end of. And I have to remind myself constantly that, David, you got to let it go. It is not important. And it doesn't really affect the way your life is going to be. So let it go. But there have been a few times in my life where I've come across a crossroads where something happened and I had to change the way I looked at things. One was the accident, and one was the journey to going from 2012 to the marathon, that I had to change the way I looked at the world and to change the way I looked at myself and what would make things better. So it's an ongoing struggle, but there are some little bookmarks that happen that can cause a shift. And I think that's, once most people are adults, they don't have a lot of those points. And you have to recognize when is there an opportunity to change the way you look at things.
Well, and I love the fact that you talk a lot about stubbornness, because I'm the only redhead in the family and I'm extraordinarily stubborn. And I had a lot of bookmarks in my life because God just kept trying to be polite, but then evidently decided the big cosmic 2x4 had to come my way. And it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
You're knocking on my door. Gotcha, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a chapter in the book called School of Hard Knocks, where I talk about, I look back on that journey from the accident to the marathon and how hard it was to get me to look at things differently. And I tell this, it's an old story of a farmer who couldn't get his mule to plow. And a local salesman says, $20, I can get that mule to plow. And the farmer gives him the $20. And the first thing the guy does is take a 2x4 and whack the mule over the head. And the farmer says, "Why did you do that for?" And he said, "Well, first you got to get his attention." And sometimes there are things in life where you've got to get that 2x4 to catch your attention so that you can look at things differently. And that's, when I look at things like frustration or pain or things that may cause me anxiety, they're not necessarily bad things. They're just signs that I need to pay attention.
I like to chew on the nuggets of people because this is the best role I could ever have in my entire life, is just to look at people for who they are. And as delicious and delightful as we are, we still have our hangups, but then we get pissed off that we're hung up. And, I don't know how old you are, but when I was a little kid, there was this cartoon that you would get in your bubble gum. And there was one.
Double Bubble. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they make that anymore. I don't know.
Bazooka Joe. Yeah.
Bazooka Joe. Thank you.
Yeah.
So there was one where he literally was hung up on a hanger, and that was just classic for that time period. But now that I'm 44, it still sticks in my mind when I get my panties all in a knot. I'm like, oh, there I am. I'm hung up on the door.
Oh yeah. It's, when there've been a couple times, like if I'm getting on the bike and going out of the garage, and especially if it's colder outside and I've got a jacket on, I'm not used to the fact that I'm wearing a helmet inside the house before I leave, or wearing a jacket. So sometimes I'll bump my head on the door frame as I go out because I don't realize that's now part of me. Or I'll catch my jacket on the door handle as I go out, and I'm pulling and pulling and pulling. And the harder I pull, it just doesn't get any easier. So I have to say, David, stop, look down, and get over yourself because you're stuck. And being okay with that, and being okay with looking goofy in the moment, because for me, it's almost a daily ritual that something goes wrong. And I have to say, okay, what are you going to do about it? Like this morning, I went out for a bike ride, and I didn't know if I was going to make the interview because I had a flat tire about 5 miles out and had to deal with that. And I'm on the side of the road with the cars rushing by me, and realizing that, okay, you've either got to fix this flat or you've got to do the walk of shame back home to either repair the tire or switch bikes, and being okay with looking goofy in the moment, because sometimes you do.
So I love that, but I don't like to think that I look goofy. I just think naturally I'm goofy, and I appreciate that part of me.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps me young. This summer, I had a series of Lemony Snicket events where God was just pushing me. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm an A-type personality, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
very driven. And there's good and bad to that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've been taught recently, I was working about 72 hours a week over the summer. And that's a lot, and I have all these employees that I'm managing, training, and working at a water park, and my housing fell through, and just one thing after another. I woke up and I went to turn on my car and it wouldn't turn because the battery died. Okay, so AAA, right? Then the next day I went to turn on my car and my key broke in the ignition.
Ow.
Yeah. The next day I had a flat tire.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I discerned from that, after laughing like a hyena, was that I was working too much and I wasn't taking care of myself, and my
Mm-hmm.
universe was trying to find any and every way to stop me from moving forward.
Oh yeah. I think you can only do. There's a saying in project management where things are, they have time, resources, and cost. Well, I look at it this way: it's good, fast, and cheap. You can do two of these things,
right?
But you can't do all three. So you can work hard, you can work long, but after a certain point, your effectiveness goes way, way, way down. And I've had periods like that as well. We just came past the anniversary of September 11th, and after 9/11, I worked in downtown DC, just around the corner from the White House. And one day I had, went down to the garage, started the car, and it died. Okay. Well, the guys in the garage helped me jump start the car, and it went about 60 feet and died again. I thought, I need to call AAA. It's got to be the alternator. And the guys are saying, no, 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 we'll help you jump start it again. So talked me into it. Started the car and just revved the engine the whole way out of the garage. Turned left onto H Street, right onto 17th, and I'm at the corner of Pennsylvania and 17th. Mm-hmm. So there's the old executive office building up there on the left.
Yeah.
White House over there. Light turns green, hit the throttle, car dies in the middle of the intersection. So this is 2 weeks after 9/11. Now there's a car stuck in the middle of the intersection right next to the White House. And you hear stories about how many Secret Service agents there actually are right around the White House. I got to see all of them.
Good for you. Did you get autographs?
No, I almost got other things. They swarmed the car and I'm having my hands up, and took 45 minutes to get a tow truck to get me out of the intersection. And at the time I was really, really upset about it. But after about a week, after I got the car fixed, I actually bought a different car. I thought, that is one hell of a story. And realized that no matter how bad or crazy or horrendous something might seem at the time, there's something you can learn from it. There's some either interesting, dramatic, or hilarious way of looking at it. And that's the way I've tended to look at anything major that's happened to me, is that sometimes, it's like, I think Mel Brooks said, tragedy is time plus distance. I'm sorry, comedy is tragedy plus time. And the further you can look back at something that was dramatic in your life, it happened, the more you can see, did I learn something from it? Is there something interesting about it? Or can I laugh about it now? And I think the more you can laugh about it now, I think the healthier you are, because you can see that in perspective. Because at the time it may seem overwhelming, but over time, there's got to be something funny in there.
I've just gotten to the place where I think everything is funny at this point. Yeah. So we're down to the halfway mark. The show goes by really, really fast. Sure. And I want to make sure we get all the golden goose nuggets from your ooey gooey inside. So do you have your book right there?
I have a demo copy.
That's fine. We just want the cover.
And it is, I need to see the camera. Now it's backwards, so I have to flip my camera.
No, you're good. You're good on my side.
Okay, good.
So do it again, please.
Sure.
You
can see all the tabs in there. This is when we were editing.
That's okay. So the book is called Get Out the Door.
Yes. And it talks about, there are two pieces to the book. One is the story itself. And the story is, in 2004, I had a motorcycle accident, fractured my L2 vertebra. And if you read the ER report, it says an explosive burst fracture on 3 axes. And before surgery, the doctor said, I don't know if you're going to walk again. And after 7.5-hour surgery, 10 days in critical care, I went to a rehab hospital for 2.5 months. And by the end of the 2.5 months, I could walk about 10 feet.
Nice.
And over the next 8 years, I was able to walk further, and I learned to ride a bike again. But I got to the point in 2012, I was about 80 pounds overweight and not happy with where things were at the time. So I asked my doctor, can I run? He said, yeah, if somebody's chasing you. So I signed up for my first 5K to make sure somebody was chasing me. And the first time I went out and jogged, I went all of 60 feet.
Yeah.
And over the period of about 3 months, I went from 60 feet to a 5K. Then over the next 6 months, I went from a 5K to a half marathon. And then in 2014, I went to do the 10-year anniversary of the accident and recovery. In February, I ran up the Empire State Building. I did 2 sprint triathlons. I rode my bike to the top of Mount Mitchell in North Carolina. and I ran the Marine Corps Marathon. And when I was getting interviewed by Comcast Sportsnet before the marathon, they said, what was the hardest thing about running a marathon? And I thought back, all the way back to the accident, and I said, it wasn't recovering from the accident, it wasn't training for the marathon, it wasn't running the marathon itself. The hardest thing to do was to get out the door every day.
Mm-hmm.
Once I did that, the rest was easy. And it took me a while to figure out how to tell that story. So even though it's my story, it's not all about me, because I do share the struggles I went through. In the bike ride up Mount Mitchell, I am the last official finisher that year. And the way I framed the story was that everybody has obstacles in their life that they want to overcome. So what they need to do is identify the obstacle, take that first step towards solving it, commit to changing, and then rinse and repeat. It's get out the door every day to do something. Because once you do it, everything else becomes a lot easier. And that's really the whole gist of the book, is once you take the first step, the other steps become a lot easier. You don't have to solve everything. Just take the first step and then work from there.
So let me be my typical devil's advocate. I wear horns. They're invisible today. I don't know where I put them. There has been thousands, we've been around for thousands and thousands of years. And in a lot of ways, we're doing the same crap that we've always done. But here's what tickles my little mental place. We now currently struggle with just getting out the door. It's like, I don't wanna, blah, 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 and we just have like this lethargic, mamby-pamby babiness to us. How the hell did we survive during dinosaurs and saber-toothed tigers and farming? Like, you had to get up every morning to feed the cows, because if they died, you were screwed. So what twisted inside of us or in society that made us so meh?
Well, if you look back, well, I can't look. I'm in my late 50s, but I can't look back quite to dinosaur days. But if you look back that far, not everybody survived. The people who didn't live to pass on their genes were the people who waited around for something to happen. And it is hard to keep getting up, especially, if I look back to January, February of this year, I could never have imagined how 2020 would have gotten to this point, let alone what's going to happen between now and the end of the year.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for you, man.
Well, I'm near ground zero, but I'm far enough away that I live in Northern Virginia, so I can at least not have to live in the district every day. But it is hard to get out the door. And what I found, anytime I went out running or got on the bike, about 80% of the time, I said, I don't wanna, it'll be nice to stay in bed. It would be nice just to sit and watch TV or get on the computer. But if I forced myself just to take that first step outside and just start, I've often felt like junk starting out.
Yeah.
But coming back, I have never felt bad. I've always felt up and alive and ready to do the next thing. So starting is hard. But once you get in motion, it's like a locomotive. It takes a lot of energy and effort to get in motion. But once you get in motion, it's hard to stop. So what I would encourage people to do and encourage your listeners to do is to take that first step, no matter how tiny it may be, because you're not in a race with anybody else. The only challenge you have is what you're doing today and what you might do tomorrow. So take that first tiny step. And it's just like a car. If you're sitting in a car and trying to turn the steering wheel at a stoplight, it's really hard to turn the wheel. But if you're traveling down the road at 70 miles an hour, you can turn the wheel with just a finger. So get in motion. And then as you go down the road, there will be times where you come across problems, but it's a lot easier to solve the problems if you're in motion than if you're waiting for those problems to come to you.
So as we wrap up, where can we find more information about you? And big tricky question, is there anything, word of advice, any little nugget that you can give the audience? Because this will be around Christmas time when we air this.
Sure.
So it'll be post-election. Hopefully everybody will be good. What kind of nuggets would you give for 2021?
Sure. For if people want to find me, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, yada yada, every social media channel you can find. My website is holliworks.com. That's HOLLIWORKS.com, and that's my Twitter handle, Instagram, sign on, LinkedIn, Facebook. If you look up Holliworks, you'll find me. And if you go to my website, you can download the first chapter of the book for free, and the book will be out around the time this airs. So that's all good.
Perfect.
But if there's one piece of advice I could offer anybody, that especially with however the election turns out and however people vote, that is between them and their maker. I hope they vote the right way though. But no matter how bad or oppressive or challenging things may seem, things will change. You know, this too shall pass, that we will get through it. And that's what I told myself every day through my recovery, is that no matter where you are right now, that will pass and you'll move on to something better. And that's why I tied it into the tagline of the book. No matter where you are, get out the door. Once you do, the rest is easy.
I love it. David, you are a champ. You are awesome. And I hope to have you on again, because I'm sure you're going to have a part deux.
I am already working on my second book.
I figured you have that sparkle in you. You've got the bug.
I do have, the next book is going to be about my son's journey. He was diagnosed with autism at age 3, and he's now a young man of 25. And his journey has not been a straight line, but once he got in motion, there was no stopping him. So I would love to share that story too. And that will be out next year after this book is released.
Perfect. So put me on your little calendar and let me know that you remind me, because after 5,000 people in 1 year, I'm drooling.
Well, I would love to come back on the show again. And if people have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on social media.
Awesome. David, be well. Have a great holiday season. Big hugs to you. And I'm glad you're funky and spicy and sporty and doing things that they said you couldn't do. I like it when people beat those odds.
Well, I don't like being told no. And I found that if you channel your energy in the right direction, a lot of great things can come from that.
Amen. Amen. Next time.
Great. Thank you very much, and have a super weekend.
You too.
Okay.
You're watching Living and Thriving with Rustie. I'm Rustie, and that was David. And as promised, I get to find the most incredible people from all walks of life, from every corner and round edge of the world, to share with you that no matter what you do, no matter how hard things get, somebody has been there, somebody has done that, and they can cheer you on and coach you on. So let's do this. We have 170 more tours to go on. So know that you're loved, know that you're beautiful. I'm rooting for you 100%. You've got this. And every single day, I hope that you remind yourself that you can do this. David's done it. I've done it. Millions of people have done it. Join us in the fabric of society, keeping the communities together in a most positive and courageous way. Until next time.